Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of SAZERAC 2020. Um, my name is Sucheta of Nagoya University, Japan, and these are my collaborators. And this is a work that explores how the latest machine learning techniques can aid us in understanding galaxy evolution. So we are familiar with this image. So here we have these first stars and galaxies, and this is what is of concern or focus when we talk about epoch of reionization. And then from this period, we have the evolving galaxies up to present time, and we have these observations of these galaxies. And during this time, we have galaxies evolving from these conditions during this epoch of reionization to the present time. And understanding how these galaxies evolve will be crucial in understanding the epoch of reionization as well. So when we want to understand and build a theoretical model of galaxy evolution, it would look something like this, where physical properties of galaxies such as star formation rate or stellar mass will be a function of each of the other parameters and of the same parameter before, so t minus 1, for example. And what you can clearly see is that it's a very complicated problem. And therefore, it's high time to look at this galaxy evolution problem in a different way. So the conventional studies of galaxy evolution has relied on something called scaling laws. And here we can see that physical properties such as stellar mass and star formation rate are, are plotted, and you can see these correlations. And this will show some sort of physical, give us a physical idea of how these processes occur. So here you can have you have the star formation main sequence, and here you have these quiescent galaxies. When you look at a more traditional way, you have these color magnitude diagrams where you have on the y-axis you have this color and you have this magnitudes, and the same here, but of a different color. But what you can see is that you have these two populations, so bimodal distributions, where this where we observe this blue cloud and red sequence, and which can be seen here as well. And what is in between is what is commonly called green valley galaxies. And these show kind of a general picture of how we see galaxy evolution currently. So the problem with these color-based methods, as I shown earlier, is that they are ratio of two luminosities. And when you want to build a universal kind of a galaxy evolution model, selection effects need to be considered. And colors are very difficult when you want to consider these selection effects because they get entangled and messy. Therefore, what we suggest that first of all, let's forget about the colors. And this is possible if we consider a multidimensional luminosity space. What we mean is, if we have bimodality in color space, we should observe something similar in the luminosity space as well. And if we do this, we can easily take care of the selection effects of galaxies, galaxy surveys and catalogs. And these boundaries can be automatically defined by a machine learning type method. And as I mentioned, the advantage of this idea is that we simply deal with the selection at each band and not as an entangled multiple selection. So for this study, we use this data, or this catalog called Reference Catalog of Galaxy Spectral Energy Distribution, RCSED, by Chilingarian. So this data set includes data from GALEX, SDSS, and UKIDS, and contains 11 photometry bands from far UV to K band. And it contains photometry and some of the physical properties for 1 million galaxies. So what we did was we created a subsample which contains all the bands, 11 restrained magnitudes from FUV to K, and we obtained 800,000 galaxies. And out of that, we generated a volume limited sample that is representative of the whole galaxy, the whole galaxy population. And we obtained 30,000 galaxies. And we use these 30,000 galaxies to do this analysis. So what we have is that we have 11-dimensional data for 30,000 data points. And if you don't have machine learning, it is very difficult to find clusters or intrinsic groups in this data. So for this, we use an unsupervised machine learning technique to find these clusters. And the technique we use is called Fisher expectation maximization algorithm. Basically, what it does is it fits Gaussians, so a Gaussian mixture model, multiple Gaussians, into a discriminative subspace. So kind of a latent space of the input data space that separates the Gaussians the best. And as you can see, if you start from this, after many iterations, you'll have specific clusters separated into a latent space, and Gaussians can be fitted. So this method has been used to find 11 clusters in our galaxy population. So this 11 is based on SAZERAC et al. 2018, where they found these 11 clusters or 11 classes of galaxies in Viper's data. And here we have shown these classes in similar plot with star formation rate and stellar mass. And you can see that this is the blue cloud, which represents all the kind of the clusters, classes, except for 1 and 2, which represents the quiescent galaxies. So if you look at these same classes in a different projection, so this is a very common now popular way to classify galaxies actually, in NUV minus R color versus R minus K color. And this allows us to properly classify galaxies as quiescent and star forming, as shown by these boundaries by them. And here also we can see that 1 and 2 are quiescent, quiescent galaxies, and the others fall into star forming section. However, what we can see is that these clusters are not separated, and instead they form a smooth distribution from 1 to 11 in a very continuous manner in this projection. And the question we had is whether it could possibly be an underlying manifold or a smooth surface within this 11-dimensional space. And this so-called galaxy manifold is not something new. So studies have claimed a smooth relation of galaxies in 3D color magnitude space before, and that shows a smoothly continuing distribution from blue cloud to red sequence, and that is shown here. And here you have color, and magnitude, and you have this very tight surface relation, which suggests a continuous evolution from blue cloud to red sequence, or different states of galaxy evolution. And even by looking at this, it suggests that there should be a low dimensional space existing within this high dimensional luminosity space. Now, when we have such a surface, we can ask the question of what best represents the manifold. And if the manifold is a two-dimensional surface, we can think that two parameters would be sufficient to fully describe it. So here, if M1, M2, M3 are luminosities, a linear combination of luminosities in X and Y can fully represent the smooth surface of galaxies. And these parameters can then be used to describe the galaxy properties, the fundamental galaxy properties. However, we do not want a complete linear combination of luminosities, because observationally we usually care only about magnitudes and colors. Then we have that whether we can use machine learning techniques again to identify colors or magnitudes, which we commonly call them as features, to represent, which best represents the manifold. And here we have shown that colors or magnitudes will have these kind of combination. And the question is then, what feature separates the 11 galaxy classes that we previously identified the most? And this kind of problem can be solved by the use of random forests. And random forests are a class of clustering algorithms which generates decision trees and many realizations of these decision trees to train a model that can classify data into different classes. However, we already know the classes. So by providing these classes, we can, the random forest can learn which features are the most important in determining these classes. And we have run this to our problem in galaxy manifold. So what we did was we first input all the magnitudes and colors with the class information of 1 to 11 into the random forest. And then what we get is the features ranked based on importance. Here you can see this correlation heat map with each of these features in X and Y. And here they are ordered based on importance. However, here we remove highly correlated features, because if a galaxy is bright in, let's say, far UV, it will tend to be bright in UV, more or less. So we remove highly correlated features to obtain this correlation heat map. And here what we can see is that the most important features in the way of kind of unsupervised learning machine learning has shown that MY and MNUV and MU luminosities best describes the features of a galaxy. And in this projection, so we can project this our galaxy sample into the luminosities that were the features that were selected, which is near infrared luminosity and near UV. And here we clearly see that these clusters spread well within this space. And if you look at, so I showed you earlier with the star formation main sequence, and this clearly shows that there is a continuous evolution from star forming blue galaxies to quenched redder galaxies in this direction. So if we represent, use the third important feature also, we can plot a three-dimensional space for the galaxy manifold. And here you have the short optical MU in 3500 angstrom, NUV 1700 to 2800 angstrom, and near infrared with 10,000 angstrom. And here we have a very distributed surface that is clearly seen within this space. Now we can kind of understand why these near UV luminosity and Y luminosity, near infrared luminosity was selected by looking at a single star population evolution. So here we have shown instantaneous burn star formation history evolution for a single star population. And it evolves from here to, so these are giga years, these numbers represent. And at these wavelengths, so near UV and near infrared, you have this most variance or most difference, while the second most would be around this region, this wavelength region. But what was surprising in our study was that luminosities and not colors were selected as the best discriminators for these classes. And the multimodalities or the bimodalities that we saw in color diagrams and so on are just then effects of suboptimal projections, according to our study. So we suggest that we should rethink how we classify these galaxies. And maybe we should characterize the evolution not as two separate groups, but as a continuous parameter that better explains the evolution. Now, this is a very preliminary result where we use manifold learning to transform and find the optimum manifold axis of this surface. And this was found from the 11 multidimensional luminosity space, and these axes are as follows. And here you can see a very smooth distribution. So these are the same surfaces, but colored in terms of star formation rate and stellar mass. And what these white arrows represent is a continuous evolution from light actively star forming galaxies to heavier quiescent galaxies. And if we can parameterize this evolution with this manifold, we can parameterize this kind of evolution and obtain fundamental equations and theoretical model for galaxy evolution. So to summarize, we have demonstrated how machine learning techniques can aid in our understanding of galaxy evolution. First of all, we showed that we could find unobvious patterns in multidimensional luminous space, uh, where later we identified this galaxy manifold and the best projection. So to sum it up, machine learning algorithms have allowed us to do an unbiased study of galaxy evolution. And these results suggest that we fundamentally rethink the current conventional galaxy studies uh, to and to think more realistically about how galaxies evolve through cosmic time. Thank you.